Kate Meyer, and I'm really glad to have been invited to be here today. My story, like many of the other panelists, also a survivor. I didn't start thinking of myself that way until pretty recently, despite the fact that, over the course of one's life, you may experience multiple traumas over time that build off of one another and impact the way that you see yourself and the way you think about your body, impacts the way you interact with the world, with the way that you have relationships with people. Sorry, this is hard. I just 2 weeks ago was re-traumatized, and so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this, except that I am, because it's important. And so the last 2 weeks have been really hard. It's like the dam has been broken and water is really powerful. So how this relates to my work and Take Back the Night, I think everyone who comes to the table and participates in that has their own story and is a survivor. And we work really hard to create a platform for other people to be able to come out and tell their stories and be public with their experiences. So I think, through the course of this experience, I'm gonna go back to trauma again, because that's like the root of what we're talking about here. And trauma begets trauma begets trauma. And looking at this issue as a person who works with youth, who's done after-school programming, who's worked in schools, I've been very lucky to come at that from like a public health and social services perspective and being trauma-informed. However, most of our mandatory reporters and schools and daycare centers and youth serving organizations is different, but most of our after-school programs, daycare, schools are not trauma-informed. So the people creating reports on child abuse and domestic violence and sexual assaults of our youth are not trauma-informed. So my ask is that if any of you are connected to schools, connected to youth serving organizations, connected to daycares, connected to any kind of child care center, that you work with those places to become trauma-informed and become trauma-sensitive. Because how do the people who have the most access to our children help children and families overcome violence and trauma, which then leads to more violence and trauma, which leads to substance use disorders and addiction? How do we help those people if the folks on the front lines aren't trauma-informed and the environments that they exist in don't support trauma sensitivity? Thank you.